You're coming in today. Thank you. So I'll get us started. So we started off today with a welcome check-in and session overview. We're then going to go into grounding in the community of practice, what brings us here today. Then we're going to do some reflection questions with Mentimeter before we dive into our special guest today, who's going to talk a little bit more about comprehensive college substance misuse programs. And then we're going to do some closing remarks. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to Erica to frame us and introduce us today.
Thanks so much, Stephanie. And hi, everyone. Good to see you. Thanks for being here. I'll do what we normally do and start us off by talking about what JED does and sort of our purpose and value here. So, the JED Foundation is a nonprofit. We're based in New York City, and our mission is to protect emotional health and prevent suicide for our nation's teens and young adults. Next slide. Thank you. We were founded by Bill and Donna Satow, pictured here. In 1998, they lost their youngest son, Jed, to suicide when he was a college student. He was a sophomore in college. And at the time, there was really no standard model for campus suicide prevention, and stigma kept mental health discussions in the shadows. And they founded the Jed Foundation in 2000 to change that and try to get to how do we help students holistically and across campuses. Next slide. So the uniqueness of our approach in Kentucky, again, first of its kind, as we like to remind, a very diverse implementation in terms of strategy. So we have six campuses in the state of Kentucky implementing our JED campus program, which is our 4-year strategic planning program that looks to assess policies, initiatives, and programs and strengthen them. And listed there are the colleges that are part of our 4-year inaugural program. We have done two in-person convenings, looking forward to our third in May. We have had 13, it marks today our community of practices. 16 Kentucky Community Technical College schools have administered Healthy Minds, which looks at student attitudes and behavior change around mental health. Through that, we've done 6 communities of practices and 8 task force meetings. We've had 5 guiding team meetings to think about our statewide strategy. And we have 2 strategies sort of taking the charge and moving the work forward. So, really unique and really exciting collaboration. Next slide. So again, looking at sort of all the partners involved, we're really grateful to be doing this work, and we're reaching 200,000 students. All efforts are informed by data gathered through the study that we did, and what we did that at time one, and then we'll do that at the beginning of our 4 years together. Next slide. And this is, again, another visual aid about how these strategies are coming together. We have the KCTCS strategy, we have the statewide strategy, and we merge them. We think about parallel paths. How do we connect all institutions to exchange ideas and share progress and strengthen alignment? I think we're all getting every session better about how do we explain our uniqueness and our value that we add in support of faculty, staff, and students. Next slide. So our why do we gather for these communities of practices, a model that is followed by other systems as well. But we're really, again, supporting the strategies. We're sharing ideas, resources, and lived experiences, even taking the time to check in with one another, that's such a value add. We are talking about our real world experience, our roles and identities. We learn by doing, Zoom chat, doing Mentimeter, sharing campus examples, asking questions, asking for help, and reaching out for one-on-one support. So last time and each time we focus on a theme, and last time we explored campus coordination and communication, specifically integrating postgraduate support into our existing calendars and planning ahead for themes like Mental Health Awareness Month in May. Our focus today is on substance misuse and recovery, and we're gonna really explore campus-based approach and hear directly about the strategies, challenges, and successes shaping this work. So really looking forward to that. Next slide. So, as always, we celebrate each time. So today marks our 13th community practice, a lucky number 13, I like to say. So if you are willing and open to it, we invite you to turn on your camera, and we'd love to take a picture when you're ready. and
All right.
Stephanie will take the charge there.
Yeah. I'll count us off. And yeah, feel free to keep your camera off if you don't feel comfortable. So 1, 2, 3. Amazing. Thank you so much. And Bob, love the pose you do every time. Makes it fun.
Thank you.
All right. So now we're going to do some reflection questions, and thank you so much, Erica, for grounding us. So before we dive into our topic today, we just want to do a pulse check, and so we'll be using Mentimeter for that. Just go to menti.com and use the code, but I also have a link here that will directly take you there. So give me 1 second. Looks like I lost the chat here. All right. So if you click that link, it'll take you directly. I already see folks in there. Thank you. And yeah, give me a thumbs up if you're already in there. And if you're having any trouble, let me know. Great. So our first question today is a word cloud. In one word, describe your campus's substance use culture. Hidden. And if you want to elaborate at all, I invite that in the chat or off mute if you would like to. Rehabilitative, vague, quiet. Hiding use. Looks like hidden hiding is common here. Hidden again. Growing awareness. All right. Well, this is, of course, just the pulse check. We'd love to see where you are in this process. And so I'm going to move us along. Our next question is, how would you describe your campus's substance misuse prevention and treatment programming? Laying the groundwork. Yeah, looks like we're still in the early stages, and that's totally okay. We're here just as a pulse check as we dive into our topic today, more just to grow awareness on where we are. Well, thank you so much for participating. I will now take us back to the deck, and I will pass it off to Ashley to introduce our special guest.
Good morning, still, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I have the pleasure of introducing our speaker for this community of practice. And I'm hoping that with this speaker, we feel free to make this a discussion, but truly learn what our campus partner is doing at their institution. And without further ado, I will introduce William Mink, who serves as the mental health and substance abuse counselor and leads the behavioral health programming at Kentucky State University. William is a licensed clinical counselor who began his career at Kentucky State in May of 2016 and previously served as a substance abuse counselor in the residential and community mental health outpatient settings for several years. He earned his he earned his master's of arts in the clinical mental health counseling from Eastern Kentucky University. And he has completed additional postgraduate training from the University of Kentucky, the College of Medicine, and the University of South Florida. The only one that's missing is U of L. No, I'm just kidding. William has presented at a number of states, regional, and national conferences on the topics including trauma-informed recovery, hazing prevention, cultural competency, and religious trauma. He is also a husband and a father of two college students, Matt, who attends the University of Oklahoma, and Dana, who attends Morehead State University. If you could please give me a virtual welcome round of applause for our speaker for this community of practice.
I will remember. Hopefully, everyone can hear me. Hopefully you don't hear a slight roar in the background, because when you're in the dungeon, you kind of get these noises, and that's where we're located. It is great to be here. I've been, I think, attending these community of practice meetings since the beginning of this project, and am certainly honored to be asked to come and to share about this topic and some of the things that we've done here at K-State to be able to integrate our substance misuse and substance dependence programming here. So we do have some slides. I can't control them, so if anybody would like to. Thank you. So what we're going to talk about basically, as it says there, is implementing comprehensive substance abuse misuse programs. And it's striking to me because I'll give you a little background about myself. I was an undergraduate student and also a member of a fraternity at Eastern Kentucky University in the 1990s. So to hear people talk about substance use culture as being vague or quiet, that's not how my experience, at least in a college setting, was, because EKU was known to be a place where, you went to have a good time. And if you got an education, that was great too. So to see that this culture, and also when you consider you add alcohol to that, we're not just talking about illegal drugs here. We're also talking about alcohol as far as our substance misuse. And I think a lot of times we don't include alcohol in that discussion because alcohol is socially acceptable. It's legal for those over 21. In certain university cultures, drinking is an accepted part of college life. I was at a conference a few months ago with somebody who was presenting for the counseling center at the University of Wisconsin. And you want to talk about a drinking culture, I was amazed that there are bars on campus. The university runs them in the student center. Well, it's better to have them drink on campus than have them go up. And I'm like, this is not the Bible Belt. So we are certainly totally different culture in somewhere like Wisconsin or Pennsylvania than it is here in Kentucky. So we'll go ahead and get started with this. If somebody wants to go to the next slide, and we'll these are some basic numbers, and this is the latest research I could find. And Passman and colleagues in 2024 did a nationwide survey of a variety of universities. This would include HBCUs, predominantly white public institutions, smaller regional universities, private universities, to try to get a snapshot, a pretty diverse snapshot of these numbers. And what they found was nationwide, it was over 80% of students reported using substances. That includes alcohol. That includes states where it's legal recreationally cannabis in the past year. 46%, almost half, have reported alcohol cannabis co-use in the last year. Our students will call it cross-faded, but using those two substances together at the same time at 46%. Almost 28% report binge drinking episode in the last month. 22% of students meet the DSM-5 TR criteria for a substance use disorder. But here's the striking statistic, and it's the one at the bottom. Only 4.6% of these students receive any type of substance treatment in a clinical setting. So we have 46% that are abusing substances, 22% that have a significant diagnosable clinical substance misuse problem, but less than 5% that are receiving any type of treatment or counseling. And that was striking to me, being in this field of both mental health and substance abuse and misuse, of seeing these numbers. And so we can honestly say that the number of students, if 28% are binge engaged in binge drinking in the last month, and less than 5% are seeing any type of counseling. This is a serious issue. And it was interesting to see kind of in the, I won't say pre-test, but in the questions that were asked earlier, a lot of this substance use is quiet. Students don't want to get in trouble. A lot of it is centered around Greek life. They won't talk about it, obviously. So many of our students are slipping between the cracks here. We know there's a problem out there. It's identifying that problem, preventing that problem, and getting the students that are having these problems the help that they need. So next slide, please. Just students believe that addressing the root cause of their substance use disorders and treatment lead to more successful recovery. I am not a huge advocate, although, it can be useful in what I call manualized counseling, manualized treatment. And I know why people love that, especially if you're seeking third-party reimbursement and you're in that, that's your reality because they are evidence-based, and insurance companies and Medicaid love evidence-based stuff. They might have been evidence-based in Norm 30 years ago, but that doesn't mean that they work today. So I think we kind of have to be better about meeting our students where they're at and looking at kind of some of their underlying issues. If they have issues with trauma, if they have issues with anxiety, if they have issues with depression, and being able to treat those alongside the substance use disorders. When I started in this field working outside of higher education, there were so many silos. It was your mental health people are here, we call them addictions, your addictions people are here, and they don't talk. They don't meet together. I can have a client, and a mental health counselor can have a client, or a substance abuse counselor can have a client, and we never discuss that client. And that is not a good standard of care at all in any environment. So what we want to do is kind of break some of these silos down and be able to treat the underlying cause. If somebody has unresolved trauma and you treat the unresolved trauma, it's amazing how substance use goes down or is eliminated because they learn how to cope and they learn how to deal with life and deal with these issues that have been haunting them for so long. Clients and staff perceive the importance of safety within treatment and recovery settings. I have presented on the topic of trauma-informed treatment, trauma-informed recovery, and it's amazing how some of the basis of traditional treatment programs are not at all trauma-informed and, in fact, re-traumatize students. So we have to be aware of all of these things, at least within a clinical and a treatment setting and even a university setting, that people are not becoming dependent on substances because they are well-functioning human beings. Most of the time, they have the issues that are underlying under the surface. And there's a lot of self-medication that goes on. For some of these students, alcohol and drug abuse is the only coping mechanism that they have. And it works. It's not healthy. It's not good, but it works. That's why they keep doing it. And so what we need to do with that is give and empower our students with the skills and the knowledge and the ability that they have to avoid falling into these traps. And then when they do, giving them the tools that they need in order to recover and in order to get themselves back on track, not just academically, but in life in general. Next slide, please. So the common challenges that I hear as I go to conferences and I talk with colleagues, these are the common challenges, and you see the silos there on the right, and we'll talk about that a little bit too. The campus student culture, and I talked a little bit about being a student at Eastern Kentucky University in the 1990s, and it was Thursday, Friday, Saturday night you drank. That was the campus culture. It was downtown Richmond. That was the campus culture. It wasn't a healthy culture, obviously, and that culture's changed. I go to campus now and I don't recognize it. I actually had to go to the funeral home on a Thursday night a few weeks ago, and I'm coming out at 7:00, and I'm looking around and I'm saying, where are all the students at? Because they used to already be lined up and down coming up from campus. It's a ghost town downtown now. And that's a good thing. It's a good thing that that institution was able to change their culture in that way. But every student culture is going to be unique. Universities are not monoliths. We can say, what works at K-State may not work at your institution. What works at your institution would not work here. That's why being aware of what the culture is in terms of substance abuse and misuse, what the drinking culture is like, what the cannabis culture is like, and really talking to students and getting an idea of what these cultures are on your campus. Because if you don't know what the culture is, you have difficulty addressing it. Campus faculty and staff culture. I have been through a number of administrations here, and I've been through administrations and I'll talk about this a little later, that had varying ideas about substance use and misuse on campus and what that should look like. Some people don't want to address it. Faculty and staff sometimes don't want to work together. Sometimes faculty in different departments don't want to work together to achieve these goals of overall health and wellness for our students. And we've got to knock those silos down, and everybody has to be collaborative and work together as we can. Lack of resources. Right now, I'm the only counselor on a campus of 2,800 students. I'm the only mental health and substance abuse counselor on a campus of 2,800 students. We just, like a lot of HBCUs, we don't have the resources to hire a full staff of 4 or 5 clinicians. We would like to work on that, but we don't have those resources. We don't have a lot of money to throw around at problems. So we have to kind of work with the resources and the staff that we have. And the other problem that I hear a lot is just a lack of administrative buy-in. Administration has bigger issues that they feel need to be addressed on campus other than student substance abuse and misuse. It's not a priority. It should be a priority, and we'll talk about that here in a second, but that lack of administrative buy-in, hey, we would like to implement changes, or we would even just like to start addressing this issue on campus. Administration says, no, it's not a problem. Next slide, please. So how do we get administrative buy-in? And this has been probably lack of resources and administrative buy-in are two of the biggest problems as I talk to colleagues nationwide about this. So how do we get administration to buy in? The answer is real simple, and it's on the next slide. Retention. When there is a heavy substance misuse culture, retention suffers on a campus. The students that are regularly abusing substances don't go to class. They don't do as well as the students who abstain or engage in moderate substance use. That includes alcohol. And also, we have a lot of students that just don't want to be in that environment. They want to get an education. They're not here to party. And you know what? If we're not offering as institutions, the student that is serious, the student that is motivated, the student that is goal-driven and goal-oriented, that opportunity, they're going to transfer somewhere where they can find that. Retention. By addressing and implementing a comprehensive substance misuse program and policy, it helps with retention. I guarantee you, I haven't looked at the statistics, and I probably should have. Eastern Kentucky University's retention rate in 2025 was much higher than it was in 1996. Because students don't go there to party. Students go there to learn. Now, are there still students party? Sure. We're not naive enough to think that that doesn't happen. It's not happening on campus. It's not disrupting the students that don't engage in that. And that overall is going to help with retention. Next slide, please. So here's some other ones. Aria and colleagues did some research on this and found that excessive drinking and drug use can interfere with college degree completion. It's also found that students who misuse alcohol and drugs are more likely to have disruptions in enrollment and also fail to graduate. That seems like common sense to a lot of us that are in the higher education space, but there it is. That's what we have already known in research form. The relationship between excessive drinking, drug use, and academic performance and retention in college is rarely acknowledged in educational circles. I think there's a fatalistic view among a lot of administrators that this is just what college kids do. And there is a, if not telling students it's okay, by not addressing it, students get that message that, hey, it's okay on Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights to basically be drunk, and Sunday's your day to recover, and you go back to class on Monday. It's okay. It's accepted. And so you have kind of this quiet acquiescence that, hey, we can't do anything to stop it. This is just what college kids do. This is the culture of our university. Hey, let's go with it. Interventions to reduce the rates of excessive drinking and drug use among college students have profound impacts on college retention. When you have programming in place that addresses these issues in a comprehensive manner, retention increases. It's amazing how that works. When the university does not turn a blind eye, or in some ways is accepting of a drinking culture, of a smoking culture, of a party culture, and is focused more on this as an academic culture. And we're not there yet. We're working on it. We're not there. And my friend Dr. Call is on this as well, and she'll tell you we're not where we want to be by no means, but we're working to get there as an institution. And this is a lot of where it starts. Next slide, please. So here's what the comprehensive substance misuse interventions will look like. And so a comprehensive, and I've talked about it a few times, a comprehensive program is going to look like this. It's going to include 3 different aspects: prevention, enforcement, and treatment. Prevention is your educational efforts to provide students with tools to make informed decisions regarding substance use. Enforcement, holding students accountable for violations of campus substance misuse policy through punitive or corrective measures. And 3, treatment, intentional, evidence-based actions taken by a behavioral health professional designed to diagnose, manage, and improve a student's substance misuse. So, and we'll look in a minute, very few institutions have all 3 of these. A lot of institutions will have 2. They'll focus on enforcement and treatment. They leave out prevention. They focus on prevention and enforcement. There's no treatment mechanism. They'll focus on prevention and treatment, but there's no enforcement. And without all 3, things fall apart. They do not work. It's not a buffet type of deal where, you can take what you want and leave out what you don't. All 3 of them have to be together, almost forming in a way like a triangle or a pyramid, in order to be effective in reaching the goals that you want to have in reducing the amount of substance misuse on a campus setting. Next slide, please. And that's the reality. Most campus substance misuse programs focus on 1 or 2 of these things, but few focus on all 3. Next slide. So campus misuse interventions, prevention-only efforts, are unsuccessful. They don't work. There's only been 1 constitutional amendment in the history of this country that ever got repealed, and that was the prohibition against alcohol. We've been fighting a 50-year-long war on drugs, and it hasn't worked. Prevention-only efforts are unsuccessful. Enforcement only, and some of that goes along with enforcement too. Enforcement-only efforts, trying to tackle this strictly from a supply side for people, if we have any economics majors here, doesn't work. My daughter said this, and it was funny. Why are stoners the only people who wear DARE t-shirts? And I'm like, you know what? I never thought about it, but you're right. That program, our government has put billions of dollars into, and it doesn't work when that's all you have is prevention-only efforts. Enforcement-only efforts, again, this country is filled with examples of You know, when I started at K-State, we had a president at the time in 2016 who the substance misuse policy on this campus was if you get caught with alcohol or cannabis on campus, you're out of school. We're kicking you out. That was the policy. Oh, well, look at this. We don't have, you know, we have a zero tolerance policy. One strike and you're out. And okay, that's great. But what did that do to retention? What did that do to the student who maybe wasn't substance dependent, but just made a bad decision one day? What did that do with a student that maybe with some type of treatment or counseling or recovery support might have been able to be successful? You just booted that student out of school. That's not successful. Treatment only efforts are not successful because without prevention and enforcement, how do we identify the students that need treatment? Having worked in residential and outpatient settings, I will guarantee you 95% of the clients that I saw in that setting were court ordered. They were there because they had to be there. I know very few people that are substance dependent that say, you know what, I'm willing to give all this up, go to rehab, go to counseling, I'm good. No, they're there because the judge or their probation officer or their juvenile justice court judge told them that they had to be there. So if we don't enforce the substance misuse laws and rules and regulations on this campus, we can't identify who needs treatment. I worked under a vice president who honestly made this statement to me when I went to her concerned about, hey, we're having issues here. And she said, Mink, if we kicked every student out of off campus that smoked marijuana, we wouldn't have any students left. We're not going to, we've got laws. Commonwealth of Kentucky has laws. The federal government has laws. We have university rules and regulations, and we're not going to enforce them just because we don't want to deal with it. But you keep doing the counseling. How many substance abuse students you see last semester? One? None? Why are you not seeing any? They got no reason to come. We can't identify them. There's no reason for them to come. They're not coming. So all my students I saw were for mental health issues, but substance dependence is a mental health issue, but other mental health issues. And I'm seeing no students. So we have a treatment only effort, but we're not providing any treatment because the students that need the treatment aren't being identified. That's where the system breaks down. Next slide, please. This is kind of what it looks like here, and it's kind of a Venn diagram. The students are in the middle. Treatment works together with enforcement, works together with prevention. And we've been able to do a lot of these things. And we'll talk about kind of the model that we're working with here at K-State that we have seen some success with. And I got the numbers, and you'll see in a minute that this model is working in kind of addressing identified behavior that we want to address on campus and getting, more importantly, getting students the help that they need and preventing students in some cases from needing the help to begin with. Next slide. So prevention. What we do is a lot of universities I talk to will say, well, we require all first-year students to complete vector trainings on substance misuse. I do those vector trainings. I'm sure a lot of you do those vector trainings. Those vector trainings are playing in the background while I'm working on something else. Because I do the same vector trainings every year. I think I'm pretty good at knowing how to change my password on my email account. I think I'm pretty good at not opening attachments from people I don't know, but yet I got to listen to this and do it every year. I don't pay attention to those vector trainings and whatnot. What we do is we do targeted, and we look at at-risk groups on campus. Greek life, first-year students, student athletes. I was able this past year to get in with every sports, especially male, but even some of the female sports teams here on campus, and talk to almost every student athlete on campus about this topic with their team and their coaches there. First-year students, we're able to get into some of our first-year experience. I think we call it KSU 101. Every university has it. The orientation class, we're able to get into a lot of those classes and talk to those students. Greek life. Any student that wants to join a fraternity or sorority has to go through a program that we call divine intervention. And we talk about things like sexual assault, sexual harassment, hazing. And one of the topics that we also talk about is substance misuse. And it's amazing what these students don't know. These students don't know the difference that they use cannabis. They don't know the difference between an indica and a sativa. They don't know that there are drug dealers in this town that are lacing cannabis with other substances. They don't know what a drink is. 1.5 ounces of 80 proof liquor, 8 ounces of wine, 12 ounces of beer, 10 ounces of malt beverage. They don't know these things. They don't know that the liver can only process 1 drink per hour. They don't have this information. They're thinking whatever I've got in my cup is a drink. I'm like, no, you got about 6 drinks in that cup. And that's not healthy substance use. That's not how you drink. And so what we do is we talk about these things. We also talk about the relationship between substance misuse and sexual violence. And we talk about that not only to the female students, we teach the male students this as well. And that's important because we don't want to be like, well, you know, don't drink, you might get sexually assaulted. No, don't drink and you may not sexually assault someone. Gentlemen. So we talk about all of these things as our prevention efforts, and we tailor it to these at-risk groups. First-year students are at risk. Student athletes are kind of more at risk, depending on the sport. We certainly know students in fraternities and sororities are at risk. So that's where we tailor a lot of our prevention efforts. It's more than just giving them a video to watch and clicking on the test. Next slide. Enforcement. We are a dry campus. Possession of alcohol and other drugs is prohibited on campus. Enforcement of these rules and regulations identify students who need treatment. If a student, you know, we've done and ramped up the number of room checks that we do in our residence halls. If students are found to be in possession of alcohol, or they smell smoke in the rooms, or they're in possession of alcohol or cannabis or drug paraphernalia, they go to student court. And the way we have done that here is it kind of acts like a drug court. And so rather than strict punitive measures, boot them out of school. They receive counseling. They receive support. Often they receive mentorship. And then they are monitored through our care and bit teams on their first offenses. Now, second offense, you know, yeah, we're a little more punitive on the second offense. But the first offense, okay, we recognize maybe you made a mistake. Or maybe you actually have a problem and I'm going to intervene to see if you want to do something about that problem. But we're not just kicking students out if they get caught on campus with cannabis or alcohol. We want to give them a chance. So we're not going to lay a heavy fine on them or boot them out of school. We're going to give them some community service. We're going to give them some counseling. We're going to give them some support, some mentorship. And then if they continue to make these same mistakes, okay, you know, this may not be the right environment for you right now. Your priorities don't align with what your primary purpose of being here should be, which is to, you know, complete your program, get an education, and earn a degree. So we bring them into this, and we really provide check-ins with them, counseling with them, mentorship with them, and help them get involved. And then we've seen better outcomes because of that. Next slide. Treatment. Counseling and treatment are personalized to meet the needs of each individual student. Again, I don't like manualized counseling. I don't like reading from a script. I've had to do it in the past. I don't like it because it may not apply to the student or the client that we're dealing with at this time. They're not given standardized manuals, worksheets, online modules to complete. That's the easy way of doing it. But really, what is the student learning from this? What insight are they gaining into themselves about why they're abusing substances? What skills are they gaining from these things? Maybe they are, maybe they're not. But individual evidence-based counseling interventions, basics, K6, a lot of those are CBT plus motivational interviewing. one of the things I really like about basics, and anybody that's trained in basics and K6, which is just the cannabis version of basics, deals with alcohol, K6 deals with cannabis, is they're based kind of around a model of cognitive behavioral therapy and motivational interviewing. So you're trying to identify change language with clients. Okay. You say you don't want to stop, but yet you're recognizing your grades are suffering because you're drinking and smoking too much, and you don't like that. Now we can use that motivational interviewing piece to guide them into some CBT work and help them dig a little deeper into this. So when we're using these type of programs, really we're dealing with the student as an individual, not giving them a worksheet, online module, so we can check off that they completed it, and they can check off that they completed it. They know nothing, and they go back to doing what they were doing before. In that case, you don't have a treatment program. You have a punitive program where you're making a student do something they don't want to do that they're getting nothing out of. I hate to say that, and maybe that's the 17-year behavioral health veteran that's grumpy saying this, but I think it's true. I think it's true. When it doesn't apply to the student and you're giving them a ton of work to do, it's just punitive at that point. It's like writing, I will not talk in class on the chalkboard, which I had to do. That's the equivalent of what you're doing. I will not drink on campus. I will not drink on campus. I will not. They're not. What are they learning from that? Maybe they're learning, I don't want to do, I don't want to get punished like this again, but are they learning anything to help them make better, more informed choices that will lead them to reaching their goals? Because that's the end result that we want to get to. Next slide, please. I got this from our, and she does a great job, and we're certainly blessed, and I've worked closely with her for a number of years. A great student conduct officer here was Destiny Baker, and she helped provide me with some of these numbers about our cannabis cases. And as you can see here, just from looking at this graph, we are a cannabis culture. Our students are smokers. Not to say we got some that drink, but predominantly our students, and we are a marijuana campus. And there was a time when things were getting enforced, honestly. I mean, I can tell you who the drug dealers were on campus. Nobody was going to do anything to them. I knew who they were. When they walked by you, you could, their backpack smelled like a skunk. Like that was what we were doing. And so when we started this, we have a new administration, a new president, and we didn't have to worry about administrative buy-in. He just honestly, I think the first meeting he had, and Dr. Call remember this, said, I want to do something about all this marijuana smoking on this campus. And I'm like, thank you. That's great. So in fall 2024, we really stepped up our enforcement efforts, and these were our cases just related to substance abuse. And we had, I think it was 91 cases in fall of 2024. And the funny thing was, we only had around, if I'm not mistaken, and Dr. Call can correct me if I'm wrong, around 2,100 students that semester. And we had over 90 cases. You go down to the last semester in the fall, I think we had 62, and that was at over 2,800 students. So as enrollment is going up, what we're seeing is the number of court cases that we're having related to students using substances on campus is going down. And that's what we want. 32% decrease in alcohol and other drug cases since fall of 2024. And I think that's significant. And right now, we're still gathering numbers. What we're estimating now is we might be around 50 in this spring semester. And to see where our plateau is. We have a president that wants the number to be 0. And, we've kind of talked to him and said, I don't think that's going to be possible. We're never going to be at 0. Student people are going to make bad choices. But if our plateau, and we can stay at our plateau of around, 25, 30 in a semester, that will be success. Because what we're doing is, and we know that some of this is moving off campus, that's fine. It's not disrupting the academic community that's on campus as it was before when it was kind of open air, and that's just what people did. Openly use marijuana, openly use cannabis, openly drink. We're not seeing that now, and what we're seeing is the number of cases are going down, as enrollment is going up. And to me, that's a success. It truly is. That we've been able to have a 32% decrease in our court cases and students that are coming in for treatment because of these efforts and this kind of collaborative and comprehensive model that we've been able to put forth here at the university. I think we're seeing some success with it. And like I said, it'll be interesting to see where kind of our plateau is, our baseline is, because I think it can get much lower even than what it is right now. And I would love to see it at, if it was 91, to see it at 45 even, to see half the cases that we had 2 years ago. So that's kind of my goal. Like I said, I have a president that he wants the goal to be 0. We're not going to reach that goal, but realistically, if we can get the number down half or so, that's what we're aiming for. And get the students the help that they need. And a lot of the students that have been through a lot of our counseling, we've been able to keep on campus. I've seen them graduate. I've, witnessed these things about, hey, they were able to be successful because we identified the problem. We were able to get them into some counseling, able to get them into some treatment. They were either able to stop or moderate their substance use to the point that they were able to be successful and graduate. And that's what the goal is for all of us, is to take our students from the time that they enter in on that first day of orientation through commencement. I think I may have one more, or do I? Okay, questions, and I guess you can put them in the chat or the comment box, and I'll try to answer them as they come in.
Thank you so much, William, for this amazing presentation. I actually do have one question.
Okay.
So it looks like you have a grasp on the trends on campus. I'm wondering, with the rapid changes and, so many students to look over as just one counselor, how do you, get a pulse on those trends and maybe see, just what's happening on campus and get a grasp of that? I'd love to hear more.
One of the good things is it is such a small campus. And I'll be honest with you, I am somewhat, being at Kentucky State University and having been here for 10 years, and there's not that many 6'1" white men in student affairs. So the students all know me. And I have a good relationship, even with a lot of students I don't have in counseling. I have a lot of interns that work in my office, and they're always talking. And the big thing is just listening. It's like, okay. I have students that come up and talk to me, and I'll be like, I have no idea who this student is, but they know me. Just being open, being available sometimes. Open door policy, and we're real big on that. If I'm not in a meeting or I'm not with a student, my door's open. And students will come in, and they'll just come in and just talk. It's not even in a clinical setting, but they just want to share something. And so you get an idea. Now, it has been a little harder this semester. Having to, manage everything. I just got out of a session right before I got on here. I think I've got 4 sessions this afternoon, but it's been a little more difficult to actually get out and talk to a lot of students. But I think just putting yourself out there, talking to students is vitally important. We can't just stay in our office all day long. We have to be out among students having these conversations about what's going on. And on a small campus, it really is easier to do that than if you were, say, at UK or U of L. So, where you've got, 25,000 students or so.
I do have a question.
Yes.
My name's Elena Stubbs, and I am at Hopkinsville Community College. I too was a part, or still am a part of Grief Life, as that is lifelong. It never goes away.
Mm-hmm.
But at a community college, specifically at mine, we don't have counselors. We don't have Grief Life. We don't have student athletes. We don't have dorms. And so for us to kind of gather this information makes it a little harder. For example, I am the only one that does pretty much mental health, but my area also has a ton of other stuff such as student orgs, our pantry, student workers, student activities, both campuses. So saying all of that, what are some ways from your years of doing this that you think may be helpful for someone that is not able to focus on just one primary thing?
Yeah, I think still prevention. I think you can still do prevention even at the technical community college level. I think you can still engage in a lot of prevention efforts. You probably don't have, because it's doubtful that you have a counseling center. A lot of our, my wife teaches adjunct as well at BCTC. And, she's, like there's no counseling center there. There's no certainly substance abuse professional there. But there's also community partnerships. There are community partnerships with, some community mental health agencies or some other agencies in your community that you can partner with to be able to have as a referral source. If a student comes to you or, because sometimes you'll see, okay, this is a student I had last semester, because students are still abusing substances. They're just not living on your campus doing it.
Right.
So enforcement is going to be out in the community, which one of the good things here is, hey, what you might go to jail for out in the community, we're willing to get you help with here.
Okay.
And so in that case, it's just having those partnerships, but you can still focus on prevention, even in meetings that you have with your campus leaders. In your first year students, you can have some of those conversations with them and provide them with a lot of the prevention information so they can make better, more informed decisions about their substance misuse or substance use. So I would say at a community and technical college setting, probably the focus would be more on prevention, because you're not going to be able to have kind of that three-part model. But you can certainly focus on prevention and giving them. I would say if you had to pick one of those three, and I'm not a prevention, people would say, oh, there's a whole separate and Eric and Stephanie know this of prevention professionals in higher education, especially at large universities. And that's what they do. And they've got teams, and we don't have that at K-State. It's me, but I'm a treatment guy, right? I'm a clinician. And I would still say that probably if you only had the opportunity to do one of those things, to do prevention.
Thank
If
you.
you had to pick one, prevention. And you guys, the good thing is you can do that. You can do prevention at a community and technical college based level.
Thank you.
Thank you.
William, hey, Bob at Northern.
Hey, Bob.
Good to see you. Thank you for sharing the good work you're doing. I've typed it out because I'm better in writing, but I figured I'd ask it verbally since I had the space. I'm curious how you've been successful working to bring faculty on board with your approaches, especially thinking about prevention and resource referrals to you as a clinician. Yeah, that's right. That's one of our challenges. I'll put it that way.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I will say this, and my friend Dr. Cole can back me on this. Some faculty are super supportive. Some faculty don't care. And that's always going to be the case. Sad to say, we have some faculty that are on board with what I do, on board with anything. You've got some faculty that you try to introduce something new to them, they're just not going to do it. I'm tenured. I don't have to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm here to teach. I'm not here to do all this other stuff. And so what we do is we really lean on the faculty, and we know who they are. I know who the instructors and the professors are that truly care about the students that are involved. And those are the faculty that we lean on. I've got certain faculty that I know are going to bring students to my office if they're having an issue with mental health or with substance abuse and misuse. And, it's kind of an issue of you work with what you got. And we really lean a lot. And I do on my work, Dr. Cole works in a whole different area, but she does the same thing. We lean on the faculty members, the instructors that are here to work with the students, not just go and teach their class, do the research, and go home. And so that's who we lean on the most. And so really, they're on board. That's the best I think we can hope for, because, I would love to get every faculty member here trained, for example, in QPR. I would love to get every faculty member here trained in mental health first aid. Can't make them do it. And okay, we have a lot of them trained in it, but those are again the ones that really care, that refer us and work with us. Those are the ones that are. They'll come to my QPR training, or they'll come to our mental health first aid training, or they'll come to these events. And so that is the focus, is you just work with what you've got. Faculty Institute early alerts. But even this, Dr. Call, how many of the faculty don't bother with it? That's it. I'm on that committee too. That's an ongoing issue that we have. I'm on a committee that Dr. Call chairs. And that's one of the issues we have, is we're like, it's the same 20 faculty members that are really doing early alerts. And some of them we never see one from. And it's like, how do you get them to buy in? Well, you just got to rely on the ones that are bought in. And that's the best you can hope for, I think, because that's those silos again, So we work with what we got. And when resources are limited and you have these challenges, in a perfect world, everybody, faculty and staff would be working together for the betterment of our students in every aspect. That's not the case. I wish it were, but it's just not. So, we work with what we got.
I appreciate that. Yeah. And culture changes, talking about culture, whether that's institutional culture or social culture, that it takes a lot to move the needle. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. That's and sometimes they might get tired of us continually going to them and continually putting them on committees and continually using them as a resource. But hey, the curse of competence. Any other questions, thoughts, comments? Well, thank you all. I appreciate this opportunity to come, and hopefully we'll have another opportunity in the future to share, and I do appreciate it. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, and let's give another virtual round of applause. So with time, and here's just some resources that you linked as well. We will share all of this after if you have any questions. And of course, we'll share the deck as well if you want to re-review. So thank you everyone for joining us today. I'm going to go ahead and put our post survey in the chat. Please complete it because it helps us improve these communities of practice more and more again. And if you have any questions, we have our contact information here as well. But if you don't have any questions and don't need to stay back, thank you so much for joining us, and have a great rest of your day. Bye, everyone.